everybody. Thanks for joining me in this adventure in the EDI framework. So quickly, who am I? For the ones that do not know me, I'm Simone Orsi. I'm Italian, as you can understand from the gestures. I'm 41, pretty young, of course. I'm a Python full stack developer since a while. I work with Odoo since version 5. And I'm an OCA board member, and I'm open source adept since ever, and software architect, at Camp to Camp at the moment. Well, actually, since 7 years. So, quickly the agenda for today. I'm gonna explain what is this framework, what are the motivations behind it. Mainly the core concepts in really briefly. I'm gonna show you the pluggability of it, and next I'm gonna talk about what is new compared to last year. I had a talk also last year and the year before. I'd just like to keep everyone posted on the evolution of the framework, and then I will show some real life examples from our customer implementation, and at the end a quick roadmap. So, what is it? So, for the ones that are not familiar with the concept of EDI, basically it means exchanging data between partners. Okay, no matter which kind of data, no matter the partner, no matter the transport protocol for this data. So, the framework is actually a modular system that takes care of everything you shouldn't care about, like the UI. Making possible to configure the exchanges and automatize them as much as possible, both for inbound and outbound messages. So the main motivation actually is not written here, is that I was sick, I was tired of coding every time the same thing for every requirement, like, you know what, we have to exchange this data for this customer, and then we have to exchange these other type of data. Okay, then what you want to do is that you code it from scratch for the customer because of some specific needs. But sooner or later you realize that, oh, maybe if I pick this from here, pick that from there, I can make it reproducible. So the idea is that you should avoid replicating all the automatism whenever possible, and you should be able to focus only on the data that you want to send or receive and process, and the configuration. And possibly your end user should be able to manage these exchanges and, well, to see, inspect, or create these exchanges with the same UI. Doesn't matter if it's sales, purchase, warehouse management, whatever. Then the intent with all of this is also to reduce the amount of code that you have to do for the customer. Okay, so normally you should end up just with configuration and a little bit of customization only if you really have some critical different piece of information to send or to process. Last but not least, probably many of you know that in Odoo core there is some EDI modules, but it's not a framework. It's basically Odoo style, so everything is bloated in the account invoice or account move or the specific models. So there is little decoupling, and as you know, it might be refactored like tomorrow or even right now, or move to enterprise solution, while the framework works for enterprise or community, doesn't matter. So some of the core concepts in brief, those are the four main pieces of configuration that you can have. So you have a backend type, which represent basically the macro category of the exchange. It can be Edifact, can be EDI, UBL, can be whatever, mainly the former, but it's up to you. You can decide what you want. But you can have different backends, maybe for different customers or different type of exchanges, but tied to the same type of the backend. Then you have the backend, which holds the main configuration for the exchanges. can be like, I want to use this external storage, I want to use this web service, I want to have these endpoints available for this specific set of exchanges. And then the exchange type, which is, together with the record, is probably the most important piece of the configuration, because it describes what the exchange should do. It doesn't matter if it's inbound or outbound. The record, it holds the data, inbound, outbound doesn't matter, and it allows you to unify the UI as well, because you are not going to store, for instance, if you are processing invoice, you don't store the invoice file that you get on the invoice, it's stored on exchange record. And the same for every kind of exchange, being shipment advice or invoice or sale order. You have to understand that there are like 4 main actions, depending on if it's an output or an input. So you have the generate and send, so you want to generate the content of the message that you send, and then you want to send it. And then if you want to process an incoming exchange, you want to receive it, and you want to process the data right after. And all of these actions are totally agnostic. I mean, the framework doesn't care if you want to receive from a storage, from an endpoint call, from, I don't know, even for XLM RPC, it doesn't matter. They're totally independent, but you have to provide a component that is able to generate, process, receive, and send. Then we have some secondary actions that are check and validate, which are mostly for checking the state of the current exchange, or for instance validation. Like, I don't know, you're generating XML, you want to validate against an XML schema, you can plug your own component for the validation and the system will validate it automatically. So very quickly, the workflow is that when you want to deal with an outgoing exchange, you simply have to generate a record. You create a record and then nothing else. Because the system will take care of, okay, this is a type X, for type X I need that component, give me the component, generate the file, schedule it for sending, and then it gets generated and it gets sent and processed through queue job, so most of the time is asynchronous. Same for the input. You generate an exchange. It takes care of looking, well, it depends. For the input can be, if you have an endpoint, the endpoint is going to get called and it's going to generate a file automatically, an exchange record, and the system will take care of it later. Or if you have an external storage, you create the record and is going to, based on your configuration, is going to check for the external storage, matching a file pattern, well, a file name pattern, and if it finds that file, it pulls in a, I can say it, pulls it inside, and then it processes it. Pluggability. So as I mentioned before, the 4 main actions are meant to be agnostic. So what you have to do is that you register a component for each of those actions. Then you say, okay, for my exchange type, I don't want to rely on a generic component, because automatically if in the system there is a generic component defined, the framework is going to find that one and use that one. But if you want to be really specific, maybe because you have a custom one or because you have several exchanges of the same type, but you want to differentiate how they work, you can do that with a YAML configuration on the exchange type. So in this case, you can see that I want to, to generate, I want to use this component, output generate purchase order. You can also, I don't know if you're familiar with the way Odoo allows you to inject configuration through the context, but basically here with env ctx there, you can inject a context key in the whole environment of this exchange only. So you can parameterize the behavior of the processing, in this case, with a context key, which means that it allows you to reuse a lot of modules that are there already in the OCA. Okay, so imagine sale order import. There are default values that you can set in the wizard, because there is a manual wizard that you can use to import the sale orders. We can reuse that wizard, and we just propagate configuration to that wizard automatically via the exchange type. And we don't have to code anything specific for this. Then here you see that I'm customizing how to send out the message. In this case, I'm using web service send, which is a generic component that you can reuse. It's provided by the web service module. And basically what I'm saying here is that I want to use that component to send out the file. I want to use a post method, and it also allows you to use different endpoints per exchange type. So on the backend, we will see it later. On the backend, you can say, I want to use the web service. Okay, this is the main URL. But maybe you want different endpoints to call depending on the type. And with this, you can inject variables to compose the final URL of the endpoint, and you don't have to configure it everywhere. Then, as I mentioned, we have the integration with the storage backends, which allows you to, in the OCA, you've seen the talk by Axon regarding the storage that has been refactored, but basically it allows you to define the configuration for storage, and you can read and create file, put file in SFTP, in S3, no matter the storage. And this is plugged with a framework. So if you want to put file on an FTP, you can do that. If you want to read file from FTP, you can do that. You can also say, I want to, because when you work with FTP, normally what you do is that with the partner that is sending or processing the files, you have to agree on a way to say, okay, this file is processed or not. So normally what you can do is that you have 3 folders. So pending, done, error. So the system will allow you to configure this, and it will automatically put the file in the done folder, in the error folder, depending on the state of the exchange. For the web services, they are a little bit different, because you just send out to a service and you just get a response, and that's it. You don't have to deal with the state on a file system. So what's new? We have a new repository, EDI framework, because basically in the OCA we have OCA EDI, which is already quite crowded because it contains, at least until 14 and 15, the framework is there. So you have all the generic machinery for EDI, all the framework machinery. So we moved the framework machinery to this repository to keep a little bit lower the amount of module, which makes it also easier to understand where is what. It's been migrated to version 16, and we are working on the integration with the EDIFACT. So that's a very good news. Even if we don't like EDIFACT, don't use EDIFACT. So I'm going to show you a real-life example. Mainly, I'm going to show you how it is configured and how, what is the outcome of that. We're going to see, in this case, a UBL exchange tied to sale order and order responses. Here I'm using endpoints and web services at the same time, because I have inbound and outbound exchanges. I'm going to show you how you can configure the states for the exchanges, for the exchanged records, and how the outgoing records are automatically generated and sent. Is it readable? Kind of. No? Damn it! Can I zoom a little bit? No, eh?
It's a resolution problem.
Oops, entrada bloqueada. Che ha hecho tempo restante. Is going to explode, Daniel. It's...
I just ruined my laptop. You know that?
No clue. What is that?
First time I see this.
Run. Run.
You have to stop the timer
Shift
at
function.
0,
Follow the
0,
instructions.
Yeah.
So you need to do
Fn shift, Fn shift,
where the shift function.
and then this.
Corona pandemics.
Fn plus right shift. Yeah, that's it.
What is doing?
Daniel, 1 minute.
It's time for you to get out, so I'm doing what it tells us.
But then you have to do this as well, no?
It just says click function plus. Oh, function. This is function.
No, that's control.
No, I switch them.
Ah, that's why. You rock. Thanks. In my heart. Okay, so, well, it's not so readable, but I'm gonna interpret the signs. So, up there you see the backend, okay? And as you should be able to see, that's a UBL type of exchange, okay? And the two types are actually endpoints and web service, okay? So, sorry, I don't have to move, right? I can move back. So on the right, you see that I have a backend. A web service backend. There is a protocol, there is a URL, a content type. In this case, is XML and authentication stuff. On the left, you see that, well, actually I'm on the same tab for the web services, and the first one is for the endpoints, okay? So on the backend, I configure, I need these endpoints and I need these web services for my exchange. These are the endpoints. So as you can see, I can configure as many endpoints as I want. So for instance, this customer wants to keep track of all the incoming exchanges depending on the customer, for instance, okay? So they can send to their partners different URLs depending on the customer. And here, well, it's in basically Sanskrit, but it's basically to show that with a small snippet that you can code in the UI, you can generate an exchange. And this is basically a boilerplate that you can reuse everywhere, okay? And in there, I'm just generating a record. I generate the exchange record, and then the system takes care of that. Here you see exchange types. In this case, I have 3 types of incoming exchange types. As I mentioned before, because of the, they want to have different behaviors depending on the type of the customers. And then I have 1 type, which is for the response, which is the same for all of them. What it means? It means that for processing the incoming, I need a different logic, different behaviors, depending on the customer. But for sending out my order response to say, I accepted your order, or this line got accepted, this one has been changed, I need just 1 single exchange. And what I can do is that I say, okay, these types use this hack exchange. So the system has the concept of an hack. No matter if it's inbound or outbound, you can manage an answer to the message that you sent out or that you received. This is an exchange type. So generic configuration, you have a backend, you have a backend type, you have a Unicode to recognize it, and you declare the direction, so it's input or output. Then you can define the file name pattern. For an outgoing record, is going to just generate a file name. If it's incoming, in the case of the external storage, is going to be used to find a file in the storage matching the pattern. So you can also use a sort of a regular expression to find the files in the storage. Then the extension, some other tweaks. There you see the exchange type. In this case, UBLSO response. As I mentioned before, this is tied to the job, queue jobs. So there you can say, okay, for this exchange, I want to use this channel. And this is really interesting because sometimes you have, you can burn a lot of resources with Exchange, so you can sandbox each exchange in a channel, and then you can just process them with a capacity of 1 or capacity of 2 or 3, depending on the size of your infrastructure, and you can parallelize all the jobs. At the bottom, you see enable states workflows. So at exchange type level, I can say, I want to use these workflows, which in turn represent the states that I can use for the records that I generate. At the bottom, you see advanced settings, and this is something that you've seen before. So there, well, it's not really readable, but I'm just saying that for processing, I want to use a specific component. And that's it, nothing more. Because that component is already capable of doing all the things that I need. So yeah, there you get the UBLSO response, which is the ACK exchange type. Similar configuration, so it goes out instead of in, backend type, the backend. There you see that it's an ACK for those 3 exchange types. And I can also say that this exchange type is enabled only for particular customers. Okay, so when I receive an EDI order, I will generate an order response only if those customers are matched on the sale order. Below you see, again, an advanced configuration. It's similar to the one that I showed before. It's just I'm saying I want to use that component to generate the file, and I want to use the web service to send it out. Nothing really special. Here you see an advanced configuration of the exchange type, which is really, really nice. On that tab, Model Rules, you can define rules by Odoo model. Which means, so for the first one, the first line is a manual action on the sale order. And this kind of action is a form button, which means that when the domain over there matches the sale order, a button related to this exchange type will appear automatically on the form. Okay, so you can configure, I don't know, maybe you want to disable the automation of the exchange and allow the user to send it out manually when it's done with the order. You disable it for the sale order, and the button appears, and you click the button and you send out the message manually. However, you have also the option to generate, well, to configure an automatic action, okay, which is the one, the second and the third screenshot. You have as well a domain, and you also have, it's not readable, sorry, but it's a piece of configuration that allows to say, I want to generate it when I write on the state, and I want to be generated only when the state is sale or whatever. In any case, this is just to say that there is a very granular configuration that you can do per exchange type. This is another configuration that you can do. Is not in the core of the framework. This is another module, is the exchange, EDI exchange template, which allows you to configure exchange templates that you can write in QWeb. And I don't know if you know it, but QWeb is not able only to generate HTML or XML. You can generate whatever in a TXT, CSV, whatever. Okay, so it's a powerful module that allows you to, from the UI, to generate an exchange to be sent out. And in this case, I'm generating XML for UBL, but you can generate, as I said, whatever you like. And below, well, on the right, you see that there is a little code snippet that you can use to generate, well, to prepare the data for the template. So imagine that, I don't know, for whatever reason, your seller is not the partner of the company there, but it's something else. I don't know, maybe you're doing drop shipping and you want the seller to be someone else. You can tweak it there and you do whatever you want in Python. The result is going to be exposed to the template when it's going to be generating the output, et voila. Then here you see what I mentioned before on the exchange type. You can say, for the exchange type, I want to make available to the record that I will deal with, in this case a sale order, I want to have these states. And what happened with this is that when a sale order gets processed, it's going to be switched to the right state. Those are states that you can find in the PEPPOL norm. Well, actually they are suggested, they are not mandatory, but you can use them to identify the state of the record. And this is important because you want to send to the customer, or anyway to the third party, you want to send the information about the state of this order. So it has been accepted, it's been rejected. And at sale order line level, you get as well the computation of the state of the single line, which is, in this case, it happens by comparing the original data that you got from the input file, and it's going to say, okay, the product is the same, or the quantity is the same, or has changed it, and then it's going to update the state of the line. And even if you change the line manually afterwards, it's going to recompute the state, and depending on your configuration, it can also send out automatically another order response with updated data. So here you see the EDI exchanges. So that's the unified UI that you have. So basically those are all the incoming records that we have for this customer. And as you see, they receive the state, it gets processed. They came in through the endpoint. So you can also filter by endpoints or group and do your stats as you prefer. This is how an exchange looks like. So from there you see that it's attached to a specific type, specific backend, its status, the endpoint that generated it. If you have an ACK, you also get the relation to the exchange ACK. At the bottom you see related exchanges, because you can potentially generate multiple exchanges that are tied to the initial one. Like in case of a sale order, you have an incoming sale order. As long as the sale order is modified till the very end, you're going to send out multiple order responses, depending on your settings, and you're going to see them all here. And this is what happens on the sale order. So that's a sale order that has been processed through EDI. In the EDI tab, you will see all the metadata, like the record that originated it, the type, the endpoint, and the EDI state that I mentioned before. As well as on the chapter, you will have, well, it's not real, but here is where it got in. So the record has been processed by the framework. And on top, you see actually first, in the middle, you see that the order response has been generated and is waiting to be sent. And on the top, you see that it's been sent right after. So quickly about the roadmap, improve the UI, especially for the configuration, making it a little bit more easy to customize without having to know how it works under the curtains. And for the same reason, write some docs. Here are the references, EDI and EDI framework repositories. And that's all, so I'm open for questions. Herr Kramer, please.
Actually, two questions. First, I mean, do you have any capability to replay some of the transactions. Just imagine that this transaction goes to a failure state for whatever reason. Do you have a methodology in the framework that allows you actually to replay payload?
So he's asking if, just I repeat for the registration, he's asking if there is a way to replicate, to repeat in case of failure, to repeat the generation or the processing of the file. Yes. So basically, there is an automatic management of the states. So in case of inbound or outbound, you get waiting validation, waiting to be sent, or waiting for processing, or processed, or error on process, error on send. So depending on the states, you're going to have a button which allows you to retry the exchange. And you can configure this, you can make it automatically through a cron or whatever. And there is also, actually this is new, I'm adding a PR for that. I'm making the job retryable, so in case, for instance, you're sending out something to the web service, it failed because for some reason the service was down, it's going to be repeated until, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, as long as you configure it properly.
Okay, perfect. And the second question would be about monitoring. Did you thought about how to properly monitor that? Because I think if you have several endpoints, incoming, outcoming, running with several transactions, then monitoring of the transaction becomes a decisive thing for IT infrastructure people. So how do you monitor?
Monitoring, in case for monitoring you mean logging or consumption of what?
Just to see and be informed. For instance, if you have an unusual amount of sale orders coming in that should tell you infrastructure people something is going wrong here. How is that actually? Is there actually a framework or a methodology that you apply to monitor these transactions?
Not at the moment. Also in this case, the customer has an IT department, so they're normally checking the system, how it's going. If they get an alert from the sales department, in this case, they get notified from sales job queue job failures. So they're promptly getting in touch with us if they have any problems. So far we didn't have this need. And actually, we didn't have that many problems, and it's live since 2 years I'm scared to touch it. Okay, it's there. It's back, okay. Can I touch the mouse? Okay, yeah. We didn't have this need, but yeah, it could be something maybe interesting.
Amount of transactions that you process with that?
Here they have hundreds of incoming sale orders per day, but they're introducing more and more customer month by month. And soon they're going to have also a full supplier orders management with that for purchases. So they will have, probably thousands.
An interesting use case would be, for instance, I think if you are working with a 3PL and you would like to have really deep insight into what is actually done in the stock with this 3PL, and you can get that EDI data back and forth, and then you are easily in the thousands per day.
Exactly. Well, we will discover it soon because we will have to plug VAMAS for the pickings, so for the warehouse.
Exactly. I'm curious to see that use case with that type of workload.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
It's over. Okay. Anyway, if you have any other questions, just feel free to reach me out around. Thanks.